Hi guys, John with you, and today's video is a little bit out of the ordinary. Well, not out of the ordinary really, but a change from normal. Yeah, change from normal. I'm not doing any modelling, no painting, no weathering or anything like that, but we are using models. We are using models, and it's model kind of related, as in the fact that I'm going to use models to illustrate my top 5. These are my top 5 favourite tanks. I know I'm kind of pinching something there from the Tank Museum, but all credit to the Tank Museum. If anybody has ever get a chance to go there, please go. Go over to their channel, watch their videos, support them in any way you can. If it isn't for places like that, the Tank Museum in Bovington in England, and other, say, war museums and things like that, they need people's support to actually, to survive. And it's part of our history, and if we forget it, we're basically forgetting the sacrifices that the people that served in these vehicles and at those times of conflict, they should never be forgotten, okay, on both sides, on all sides. We can look back and we can learn from our past and learn from our history, and that's what history is all about. It's there to be learnt about, and so we don't make the same mistakes again. If we forget about our past and write away our past, we're leaving ourselves open to make those mistakes all over again, okay. There's this kind of this movement at the moment to erase bad things out of history, forget they ever happened, tearing down statues and writing people out of history and forgetting about it, never mentioning that it happened. That's all well for now, because we know about it and we know what these people and things have done. But if we erase them from history, and 2 or 3 generations after us that never knew what these people were or anything like that, what they did to make them such bad people, what's to stop all that happening all over again? That's why I think that history is to be learnt from and should be preserved, the good and the bad. So anyway, let's get back to tanks. Oh yes, a link to the tank channel will be below, as their YouTube channel will be below here in the description box. So get over there and support them as well, because they do fabulous work. David, Willie, and the crew, they're absolutely brilliant. I watch all their videos. I'm a regular watcher of their stuff. I think it's absolutely brilliant. So let's get back on to my top 5 favourite tanks. And if you'd like to share your own top 5 favourite tanks as well, you can do it on the Facebook page. That's JMSM on Facebook. Take a picture of your 5 favourite tanks, or even take clips of your 5 favourite tanks, or even list them if you don't have pictures, and let us know what your 5 favourite tanks are. Okay, link for the Facebook page will also be below in the description box. So anyway, let's rearrange the camera a bit. We'll go down to the bench, we'll have a look at these. I can do it now because I have all my 5. These top 5 tanks is not something that I've suddenly kind of only recently compiled. This list of 5 has really been my top 5 for many moons, many years, going back to when I was a kid, back in the 70s, and reading Victor magazine, or comic. I used to love Victor and Warlord and those kind of comics, and they were the kind of comics I used to do, and also the little Commando series of books. And from that and from war films on television, and that's where I got my sort of introduction to tanks and stuff like that, and also from Airfix, the old 172nd or 176 scale actually Airfix models, and that's where I got my love of tanks. And these tanks were always my favourite, my top 5. So let's go down, we'll have a look at my top 5 favourite tanks. So excuse the wiggling. A little bit of manoeuvrability there to get down to have a quick look at these. Okay, there we go. At number 5 we have the WW1 Mark IV. Okay, I'm reaching over there because I want to get my little turntable so we can give it a little twirly twirl. Okay, now I'm not going to talk about the kits or anything like that. I'm not going to say what make it is, or as in what kit, how I painted it, or anything like that. All these have already been made on the channel, so if you want to see them, go to the channel and have a look at them like that. Okay, so this is my number 5 favourite tank, and why is this my in my top 5? Personally, I don't think that anybody could have a top 5 tank without some of the very, very first tanks that were ever done. They were an awesome looking machine. Could you imagine being in the trenches? Like, up until that thing, the biggest anybody would have seen machinery wise would have been one of those big steam thrashers. And those things would have only maybe, say, half the size of this. And if you saw this thing coming at you with all guns blaring and firing away, you'd be absolutely freaking terrified. I know I would be. Well, then again, it doesn't take much to terrify me. But they were just so awesome. They really, really were. They weren't designed to look pretty. Then again, no tank really has ever really been designed to look pretty. But they look pretty damn awesome to me. And this is my number 5. It's the British WW1 Mark IV. Okay, absolutely fabulous tank. Very, very slow. Not very powerful. Not exactly very safe to drive in either. You know, there's sort of an open engine inside there, fumes all over the shop. Quite a number of people. I don't know exactly how many people would be inside in this. I think it's anywhere between 8 and 10 people working away inside in this yoke here. Mental, absolutely mental. But awesome, totally awesome. And that is my number 5. My number 5 tank. Okay. So, number 4. Get a little bit more modern. Actually, my next 4 tanks are all World War II. Yes, they're all World War II. Like I said, I mean, as a kid, I was born in the 60s, and sort of most of my television and all that, as a younger person, would have been sort of the 70s and early 80s. And as I said, I've already mentioned the comics. I used to sort of to read and things. They were mostly World War II based, and I remember there was a couple of elderly gentlemen around. Yep. That fought in the war. Yep, I'm Irish and live in Ireland, and yeah, quite a number of Irish people did fight in World War II. They weren't very well sort of accepted when they came back. Not all of them, anyway. I know for a fact that I had an uncle who fought in World War II. Unfortunately, he's buried in Tunisia. A place called Medja Selbab. He thought he was part of the torch landings, and he never came home. And I remember my father telling me that his letters were arriving for a couple of months afterwards, and he was hiding them from his mother, and when his mother found out, she nearly killed him. But quite a lot of Irish people did fight in World War II. So by the time I was a young kid, these people were in their, say, late 50s, early 60s, and I got to know quite a few. Well, I wouldn't say I got to know them personally, but my father knew some, and in speaking to them and things like that, they never really talked about their exploits, but they showed me some badges and some photographs, and that really sort of got me interested. So anyway, on to my number 4. It's the Sherman. And if you've got a sort of if you're into your World War II armour, you can't go anywhere without a Sherman. You have to have a Sherman in there. They were sort of the workhorse of the Allies. So many different variants. This is the 75mm one. This is actually a recent kit. I'm going to mention it. It's from Zvezda, fabulous manufacturer lately of kits. This is one of their new ones. This is the Sherman 75mm gun. They were just one-on-one with any German tank. They probably just weren't worth their weight in gold, shall we say. That's why it's in number 4, not any higher. But it was sort of by weight of numbers that these things really made the difference. The Allies could pump these out in the thousands, and they did. And they kind of shipped over to Europe and all over the place, and they really made a massive difference because the Allies could sort of fix them so easy, and they could replace them so easy. They had the replacements, whereas the Germans sort of they didn't, and they couldn't. They didn't have thousands and thousands of tanks. They couldn't repair them easy, and they couldn't really replace them quite easy either. A lot of the German stuff was, a lot of people say they were over-engineered. I don't think so. I wouldn't say so myself. I wouldn't say over-engineered. I'd say superior-engineered. But because of that superior engineering, when it came down to, say, the man in the field that had to fix them and maintain them, they were a bit too complicated. So I suppose you could say in that respect that they were over-engineered. But overall, I think that the Sherman has to be up there, purely by the weight of numbers, by the amount of them that they had, and it's a cool looking tank as well. It is an absolutely cool looking tank. And if you watch any, say, war films from the 50s and the 60s, they were there. They were always there. They were even used as painted up as German tanks in some films. Depends on the film you actually watched. But yeah, the Sherman from World War II is the M4 Sherman. Okay, that is my number 4. The M4 is number 4. At number 3 is the German Panzer IV. Okay, now the Panzer IV, like I said, the Sherman was the workhorse of the Allies. The Panzer IV was the workhorse of the Germans. Okay, originally designed as a infantry support tank with the small little 50mm gun, and later they upgunned it then to this, realizing that yep, we need a bigger gun, and this then became the main workhorse. They served from 1939 right up to the very end, and they were produced right up to the very end as well. Alongside the Panzer IIIs, most by say 1943, 1944, most of the Panzer III manufacture went purely into making of the Stug, the Sturmgeschütz. And yeah, I liked the Sturmgeschütz, but I was not a lover of the Sturmgeschütz. I wasn't, shall we say, I know the Stug life people will probably give out hell to me. I'm not really a Stug person. I have made them and I've enjoyed making them and all that, and they're an awesome looking beast. But I prefer my tanks, the actual turrety tank, and especially the German stuff. And the Panzer IV, like I said, was the workhorse of the German army during World War II. And believe it or not, these things were used right up to the 60s. Yes, they were used in the Syrians used them in the 6-Day War. And there's many a wreck of them around, used from the 6-Day War by the Arabs. So there we go. It's the Panzer IV, and that is my number 3. My number 2 tank, again a German tank. Okay, it's the Panther. Okay, an absolutely awesome beast. Really was. When they first came out, they were a little bit unreliable, and a lot of people then, when they think of the Panther, they think of unreliability. But when you think of when they first came out, they were rushed into service at the start for the Battle of Kursk, and they did have quite a lot of engine and transmission problems with them, purely because the size and the weight that they were pushing for the engines. They hadn't got the engines quite tuned properly, really, you could say. And once they figured out all the snags, they really ended up with an absolutely awesome beast. The long, high velocity gun that could knock out Allied armour from a couple of thousand yards, whereas the Allies would have to be a couple of hundred yards. So their guns were far superior than the Allied stuff, and it kind of copied, when they designed this, they copied the Russians with the main sloped armour there. They were copying the KV1 and the KV2 and the T-34. They realised that the sloping armour was just as good as adding extra weight and making your really thick armour, like you had with some of their other tanks. But to me, the Panther was an awesome tank. I remember making models of that as a kid in 1/76 scale, and I just thought it was really super tank. Just loved the shape of it. I just thought it just looked awesome. To me, that was a tank, and that is why it's number 2, because I just thought it looked cool. Simple as that. I just thought it was cool. I really did. So there's my number 2, the Panther. And finally, my number 1. Okay, a tank that had, shall we say, a bigger reputation than what it actually was, and his, of course, the Tiger 1. Absolutely loved the Tiger tank. Really did. I think one of the main reasons I really loved the Tiger is its shape. It just has that cool, awesome, come at me if you dare, just shape with that big mother of a gun, and they were just really cool. And even the thoughts of a Tiger frightened the living daylights out of the Allies. And most of the reports during World War II, believe it or not, of Allies coming across Tigers, and I'm going by reports of at the time, they weren't actually coming up against these. They were actually coming up against Panzer IVs. But the minute they saw it in the distance, they were saying, "Oh God, Tigers! Oh, we're doomed! We're doomed!" And believe it or not, quite a lot of them actually kind of decided not to engage, and to we'll go a different route. We'll avoid the Tigers, even though they probably say maybe had a line of Shermans and 3 or 4 Panzer IVs were there, and they sort of, oh no, we're not taking on a couple of Tigers. We'll avoid them. But the Tigers themselves, they were just an awesome beast. This particular one is painted up with the number 007. That is not a James Bond thing. No, this was Michael Whitman's last Tiger. This is the one he was. This is the one he was killed in. Yes, not this particular one, obviously, because this is a model. But this is a depiction. Okay, a representation of the tank that he was finally killed in. The Tiger 1, and that is my number 1. My number 1 tank is the Tiger 1. And if you want to see any of these tanks for real, as far as I know, there's one of each of them in the Tank Museum over there in Bovington. So if you want to see the real ones, get over there to Bovington in England and have a look for yourself at the Tank Museum. It's a place that is definitely on my bucket list. I've never been there. I would give my left testicle to be there, and that is not just maybe not my left testicle, but I'd give a lot. It's well up there. It's right at the top of my bucket list, I can tell you that much. I want to go see the real McCoy. I want to see a Tiger, the tank that I've always loved as a kid. And why? I don't really know. I just loved it. and was it the repetition of it or the whole lot? But I remember when I got back into modelling a couple of years ago, the very, very first kit I built when I got back into modelling was a Tiger. I no longer have it, unfortunately, because I used it as a paint mule and God knows what else, because I didn't do a super job on it first off, I must admit. And it was an Academy one, and I used it in a couple of different dials. I changed it around a couple of times and played around with it, and it got about 3 or 4 different paint jobs until it finally got its met its maker, shall we say. It finally got destroyed, but it was what got me back into modelling. So that is another one of the reasons why the Tiger is up there at my number 1. Okay, if you enjoy that little I don't know, whatever, talk, and showing you a couple of the models and talking about my 5 favourite tanks, if you enjoyed it, please give it the old thumbs up. If you didn't like it, then you can do whatever you want. I don't care. There's no skin off my nose. I didn't go to all that. Annie, shut up, John. Anyway, get over there to the Tank Museum's channel on Facebook. Like I said, the description will be below there in the in the description box. And also, if you want to help them out in any way that you can. And if you want to help me out with my channel, there's a link also in the description box for sort of the way that you can help me out. So anyway, lads, I'm going to leave it at that. I will be back very, very shortly with the last installment of the Elephant. Okay, where we're going to sort of stick on the few figures and finish it off. Stick it on an old a base. I'm going to dig out one of my old bases and stick it on it. Stick on the tracks, and we'll call it a day in that. So I'm calling it a day in this one. And like I said, okay, the Tiger was my number 1. The Panther, the Panther was my number 2. Panther was my number 2. We'll bring this back. So we'll try and get them all in. Doubtful, but we'll try. Panther was my number 2. Panzer IV was my number 3. My number 4 tank was the Sherman, and my number 5 tank was, of course, the WW1 Mark IV. Okay, and it's the Mark IV male. Okay, and the difference between the male and the female is the male has guns and the female has machine guns, or the male has cannons, whatever you want to call them, artillery pieces, and the female had machine guns. So anyway, lads, that's it. I'll catch you on the next one. Stay tuned to the channel for more. Please subscribe to the channel if you have already. Thank you very, very much. And don't forget to hit the bell. And by hitting the bell, you'll be notified as soon as I upload another video. And speaking of another video, I'll catch you on that. So in the meantime, take care. Be nice to one another. And like I say at the end of all my videos, because my channel is based at enjoying the hobby, go out and buy yourself a kit. Build it. And enjoy it. And until then, take care.